Hey everybody, welcome to the video. Today we're going to do a quick react to this new segment from CBC about Canada sending 20,000 new artillery rounds to Ukraine as part of the war effort. And I just want to talk about this because I think it's important. So let's go ahead and watch this video. I have actually watched this through because my first recording did not work out very well. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it. And yeah, here we go.
Back in Canada, Defense Minister Anita Anand has just announced more military aid for Ukraine. Up to this point, Canada has sent heavy artillery, anti-tank weapons, and ammunition. CBC's Evan Dyer joins us now live from Ottawa. So, Evan, this was billed as Canada's biggest shipment yet. What exactly did Anand have to say?
Well, Anand announced that Canada will be sending a large amount of one single item, which is ammunition for that artillery that Canada has already provided along with a number of other countries. So 155 millimeter shells that are fired from howitzers. These are shells that can travel in excess of 30 kilometers and in fact include a guided version, although it's not clear whether that's part of that shipment. More on that in a second.
So yeah, this is a if I'm an anti-interventionist. I don't believe that we should be doing this. However, if we are going to do it, artillery seems like one of the better options to send because it's a good defensive weapon. The other benefit here, and I think he goes over it in a minute, is that, as he just said, the M777 has a 30-kilometer range, 30-mile range, sorry. And most Russian artillery only has a range of between 20 and 25, 26 miles, maybe if they're really lucky. So basically, this allows the Ukrainian forces to fire from a position that is untouchable by Russian artillery. Obviously, they still have air superiority, so, you know, good luck there. But at the end of the day, if there's going to be weapons shipped to a third-party country, artillery is one of the better options. The problem I have with this, and I think he's going to talk about it here in a second, is that this was ammunition, rounds, shells purchased from the United States / their manufacturers, and not coming from Canadian surplus. I have a problem with that because I just did a video yesterday, and the Department of National Defense said that the Canadian military needs between 5,000 and 7,000 new houses on base just so that there can be housing for our service members. So if we're spending $100 million buying new rounds, sending them to Ukraine, rather than building housing for our own military members, that's just unacceptable. And the government needs to answer these questions. I am pro-Ukraine. I am very pro-Ukraine here. But this doesn't seem like the best way to spend our money.
Right there, we're seeing one of the very howitzers that can fire these shells. That is the M777 howitzer used by Canadian forces. There we see a self-propelled howitzer. Also, that tracked vehicle has basically the same gun mounted on something very like a tank chassis. And these are sort of very important to the Ukrainians' pushback against Russian armor, which of course is the war that we're seeing in the East now, very much a war of armor and artillery.
Yeah, so javelins, NLAWs, artillery. I mean, they're all defensive. You're not gonna take an NLAW and try to storm a position with it. But you know, if you can hit their armor from a distance where they can't hit you, seems like a pretty good advantage to have.
So what's going today? Well, we're told there's 20,000 shells going to Ukraine, 155 millimeter shells, but there are some details we're still trying to straighten out. One issue is that each shell is actually three components. There's the charge pack that fires the shell out of the barrel, there's the shell itself, and then there's the fuse on the nose of.
Yeah, so you can see it right there. So the charge pack is at the back. You have the shell in the middle, and then you don't see the nose on this, I don't believe.
The shell that causes it.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, you can kind of see it there for a second.
There's the shell itself, and then there's the fuse on the nose of the shell that causes.
Right there. Yeah, so you can see that there's three separate pieces, and what he's saying is in this news release from the government, they didn't tell us whether or not they're getting 20,000 components, so each of these 3 pieces, or 20,000 total full pieces, because that's how these are generally inventoried. Is you have your guidance piece, or your fuse, and then you have your charge pack, and then you have your round itself, your shell. So he's just basically saying, are they getting 20,000 full pieces, or are they getting 20,000 of each of the 20,000 individual pieces, which would end up being more like 7,000, or are they getting 20,000 total of each, which would be 60,000 rounds? So, yeah, we don't know.
Causes it to detonate on impact,
or 60,000
proximity
items
to a target, and all 3 of those we know are part of the shipment. So it's not fully clear yet whether we're talking about 20,000 shells, in other words, 60,000 components, or 20,000 components, which would be fewer than 7,000 shells. And
yeah, sorry, he explained that better. Is it 20,000 components or 20,000 shells?
Another question too. This gun does fire some very expensive guided ammunition that can be steered to the target, and at a dramatically higher cost than the ordinary unguided shell. The price of this package, $98 million, suggests that we're talking unguided shells.
It's almost certainly all unguided. It's almost certainly the majority will be unguided. They might get a few guideds, but my guess will be mostly unguided. They're just easier to make, and they're less expensive.
Are there any guided shells in the mix? We don't know. We have seen evidence, though, that the Ukrainian army is using them, and using them to target high-value targets, including, for example, Russian officers, senior Russian officers. So all of that is on the way, and will be used in those howitzers that Ukraine received from Canada and from several other NATO members as well.
Evan, so many of us are unfamiliar with the significance of the shells, what distinguishes one from another. Help us understand, why are they so important to Ukraine?
So I just want to jump in here and just say that I think that if we're going to spend money as military aid, this is the way to do it. However, I don't think that we should be doing this. And here's why I don't think we should be doing this. I don't think we should be doing this because I think that it will turn Ukraine into a Syria or an Afghanistan, if we want to use that trope. I just don't want there to be an endless war in Ukraine where basically all of this, we're just continually sending military aid to continually cause destruction. And I do understand that Russia was the aggressor. They are to blame for this, and the diplomacy isn't really working. But at the same time, this is turning more into a proxy war than it has been previously, or than it could have been. Although I think you could probably argue relatively easily that Canada's been supporting the Ukrainian forces basically since the beginning of the war after Euromaidan. So I think that if we're going to do this, this should all be very, very transparent. And the fact that we don't even know if they're getting 20,000 rounds or 20,000 components, are they getting guided rounds? Are they not getting guided rounds? These kinds of questions that the government is probably not going to answer anytime soon is unacceptable. We have needs in our own military. We have needs in our own country. And we don't need to be spending money enabling more killing. Because Ukraine also produces a large percentage of the world's wheat. And so if that economy doesn't get back up and running, and those farmers can't get back to producing the wheat that the world needs, there's going to be some major issues. And with climate as it is right now in Canada, we're not going to be producing as much as we normally do. There's been a lot of concerns that this year might be the worst year ever in Manitoba for agriculture. So if that's the case, on top of this war, there's going to be some major food shortages around the world, and that's going to cause even more chaos. And I'm just concerned that we're leading the charge on this. We're not taking a back seat to the United States this time. We are being very out there and upfront with our support for Ukraine. And while I do agree with that, even in the rhetorical sense, I don't necessarily agree with that when we're talking about sending $100 million of military aid to Ukraine. Because I don't think that that's going to solve the problem here. I don't know what would. And again, like I said before, if we're going to spend it, doing it on defensive artillery is probably the best way to do it. But I just, it's not a good situation for anybody there. And it's not going to be a good situation if this carries on. If this is still going in 3 months, are we still sending military aid to Ukraine if they need more rounds? Like these are the kind of questions that we really need to be asking our politicians and our elected officials right now. If this war continues because Russia doesn't back down, are we just an endless ammunition supply for Ukraine? Is that a problem? I think it is. I'm an anti-interventionist. I don't think we should be spending money on foreign wars. I don't. We have enough problems here at home that we need to be taken care of. And if that's not, leftist enough for you guys, I'm sorry. That's just a personal take I have. I don't think that we should be engaging in military activities and operations and support like this, especially against Russia.
Well, these shells really are one of the top requests Ukraine has been making, the shells and, of course, the howitzers that fire them. Perhaps anti-ship missiles would be the only other thing that Ukraine has been so persistently asking for. And the reason for that is because they allow the Ukrainian army to really reach out and attack massed Russian artillery and, with the guided shells, even individual Russian vehicles at much greater ranges than some of the best-known weapons we've seen in this war, such as the Javelin, shoulder-launched anti-tank missiles. Weapons of that kind typically can only reach out to sort of the 2, 3, 4-kilometer range at best. This can reach out 10 times as far. And in combination with drones particularly, or with satellite intelligence, real-time satellite intelligence provided by Western allies to target this artillery, it's just an extremely effective weapon that negates some of Russia's innate advantages in terms.
Yeah, so like I said, this is great for Ukraine, at least militarily. I don't know if it'll be great for them long term, if it brings an end to the war because they're able to destroy a bunch of Russian armor, then sure. I'm just worried. I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer here, and I think that this is one of the better options. But I still don't agree with it. This is one of the better options that are available, but I don't agree that we should be. It's just difficult. Like, I don't think that we should be spending money on other countries' military. Sorry.
Of tanks particularly, and just numbers, the overwhelming armored force that Russia has, this is Ukraine's best defense against it.
All right, guys, so if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a like or a comment, and subscribe to the channel if you really enjoyed it. Until tomorrow, everybody, have a fantastic day, y'all. Peace.